Porsche didn't lose money because of electric cars. It lost money because it stopped thinking like the 0.1% and started acting like the 99%. Every analyst will tell you the collapse was about supply chains, EV delays, or falling demand. They're wrong. The real failure happened years earlier, in boardrooms where silence replaced dissent, where consensus masqueraded as strategy, and where premium became a price tag instead of a promise. This isn't a story about a car company. It's a case study in how even the most iconic brands quietly surrender elite cognition and pay for it in profit, perception, and power. If you've ever wondered why some organizations thrive in chaos while others implode under mild pressure, this is your answer. Not in theory, in autopsy.
They did not sell more cars. They sold less meaning. Luxury is not a price. It is a promise of separation. And Porsche broke that promise, not with a scandal, not with a recall, but with a spreadsheet. Picture this. A black 911 parked on a cobblestone street in Monaco at 3 a.m. No badges, no logos, just presence. That was Porsche's silent contract with the elite. You recognize it. Others do not need to. Now picture a white McCain idling outside a suburban mall, next to a Tesla and a BMW X3. Same badge. Different universe. This is not about snobbery. He is about neuroscience. The human brain processes exclusivity like oxygen. Invisible, but fatal when absent. Free studies show that perceived scarcity activates the ventral striatum, same region that lights up during reward anticipation. But once an object becomes common, that signal flatlines. Not slowly, instantly. Porsche knew this. Once, in the early 2000s, they produced fewer than 50 zero cars a year worldwide. Dealers had waiting lists measured in years, not months. Buyers did not negotiate. Buyers were vetted. That was not marketing. That was psychological architecture. Then came the pivot. Accessible performance. Phrase that sounds strategic, but is in truth surrender, dressed as expansion. The Cayenne launched in 2002. Sales tripled within a decade. Profits soared. And something quieter died. The unspoken covenant that owning a Porsche meant you operated by different rules. By 2022, nearly half of all Porsches sold were SUVs. Not because customers demanded them, but because finance teams demanded margins. And in that trade, Porsche swapped identity for inventory. Here is what no one says. Volume does not kill luxury. Visibility does. When your product appears everywhere, the brain stops coding it as aspirational and starts filing it under available. And once that mental folder flips, no amount of carbon fiber or horsepower can flip it back. Ferrari understood this. They capped production, even during boom years. Lamborghini tightened allocations during the EV transition. Why? Because they know the real asset is not the car. It is the pause in someone's breath when they see one. Porsche forgot that pause. And in doing so, it turned its badge from a secret handshake into a catalog option. The result? Customers did not leave. They just stopped paying more to stay, which reveals the deeper failure, not of engineering, but of restraint. Because true power is not in making more. It is in saying no, especially when the numbers say yes. When every voice is heard, no signal survives. Imagine a cockpit with 5 pilots, all qualified, all polite, all agreeing on the route. Now imagine turbulence hits. Who takes control? That is Porsche's leadership by 2020. Not a command center, but a committee. A room where dissent was not debated. Chi was diplomatically dissolved. Where alignment became code for silence. This did not happen overnight. It began with a subtle shift. From what must we protect to what can we all live with? Take the Taycan launch. On the surface, a triumph. Porsche's first all-electric sports car, praised for handling, range, soul. But behind the scenes, internal documents reveal months of stalled decisions. Should it look futuristic or timeless? Should it undercut Tesla or outclass Audi? The answer? A compromise that pleased everyone and thrilled no one. And here's the data. A 2023 Harvard study of 147 global firms found that companies with consensus-driven strategy processes were 3.2 times more likely to miss profit targets during disruption. Not because they lacked information, but because they lacked friction. Because elite strategy is not forged in harmony. It is forged in tension. Steve Jobs famously banned PowerPoint. Why? Because bullet points hide conflict. He wanted blood on the table, ideas clashing, egos bruised, clarity emerging from chaos. Porsche beperform workimi hypothesis, a gallery of nods. Engineers deferred to marketers, marketers deferred to finance, finance deferred to brand values. No one could define anymore. The brain hates ambiguity, but it thrives on cognitive conflict. Neuroscientists call it constructive dissonance, the mental friction that forces deeper processing, sharper judgment, better outcomes. Remove it, and you do not get peace. You get decay disguised as professionalism. You have felt this yourself. In meetings where no one says what they really think, where the real decision happens in the hallway after the room empties. That is not collaboration. That is institutional theater. And theater does not build empires. It decorates their decline. Porsche did not lose its edge in showrooms. It lost it in conference rooms, where courage was traded for comfort. Because true authority is not about who speaks last. It is about who dares to speak first, when everyone else is calculating the cost of honesty. They built the future faster, but arrived empty-handed. Picture a sprinter running full speed on a treadmill. Sweat, grit, motion, zero progress. That was Porsche EV's strategy. Masterclass in doing, no clarity on why now. In 2015, Porsche announced a €6 billion investment in electrification. By 2023, it had spent over €15 billion. Billions poured into battery labs, software teams, charging infrastructure. Engineers worked 80-hour weeks. Prototypes filled underground garages. And yet, when the Taycan hit the market, it faced a brutal truth. Early adopters did not care about lap times in their Burgring. They cared about range anxiety, software glitches, and whether their garage could handle 800-volt charging. Porsche engineered a race car for a commute. Here's what neuroscience reveals. The brain does not reward effort. It rewards perceived progress. And when effort is not tied to real-world validation, we double down. Not because we are right, but because we cannot afford to be wrong. Psychologists call this effort justification bias. The deeper you invest, the harder you convince yourself it matters. Meanwhile, Tesla was not just building cars. They were building ecosystems. Rivian embedded adventure into every pixel of its UX. Even Lucid focused on one thing: silence as luxury. Porsche, it tried to electrify everything at once. 911 ethos, the SUV utility, the track DNA, without sequencing, without sacrifice, without asking, what does the customer actually need us to solve first? The result? A technically brilliant car that felt emotionally confused. And timing? Critical. Because innovation is not about who builds it first. It is about who releases it right. Elites do not chase trends. They watch behavior until the moment shifts, then strike with surgical precision. Porsche struck early, but the world was not ready. And by the time it was, Porsche was exhausted, burning cash to defend a narrative it had already lost. You have seen this before, teams celebrating milestones, while customers scroll past. Activity mistaken for momentum. Emotion mistaken for direction. Real innovation is not measured in prototypes. It is measured in resonance. And resonance requires stillness, not speed. You cannot whisper confidence to 3 different ears at once. Porsche tried. In doing so, it turned its brand into a hall of mirrors, where every reflection looked familiar, but none felt true. Imagine walking into a room where one person speaks Latin, another Mandarin, and the third whispers stock tips. You hear words, but you grasp nothing. That is what happens when a brand fractures its voice. On one hand, the purists, men who still hand-wash their 91 sons on Sunday mornings, who measure performance in G-forces and gear ratios. They do not want sustainability. They want soul. On the other, new money buyers from Dubai, Shanghai, Miami, drawn by Instagram aesthetics, celebrity sightings, and the badge's social velocity. To them, Porsche is less machine, more meme. And then, the boardroom, where ESG metrics demanded carbon neutrality, supply chain ethics, and EV quotas, not because customers asked, but because investors required checkboxes. So Porsche spoke all 3 languages at once. It launched a $200,000 electric sedan with vegan leather. It kept the flat 6 alive while cutting R&D for internal combustion. It ran ads showing mountain roads next to sustainability reports, citing lithium mining. The brain does not like this at all. Neuroscience shows that brand coherence activates the same neural pathways as trust in human relationships. When messaging fragments, the prefrontal cortex flags inconsistency not as confusion, but as deception. A 2022 Journal of Consumer Psychology study found that brands targeting multiple conflicting identities saw a 42% drop in perceived authenticity within 18 months. Ferrari never made an SUV until it knew exactly which Ferrari buyer would accept it, which would walk away. Apple does not design for budget shoppers and creatives and enterprises. Shorts then seduces. Porsche chose everyone, and in doing so, became no one's true home. Because loyalty is not built on features, it is built on fidelity, tact, or worldview, a rhythm, a silent pact. When you try to be everything, the subconscious hears. We do not know who we are either, and that is the moment price becomes your only argument. The quietest boardrooms are often the most dangerous, not because of what is said, but because of what is not. Picture a nuclear control room. Alarms blare when something fails. But what if the sensors were turned off? Not out of malice, out of comfort. That is Porsche's leadership by 2021. A room where disagreement had been quietly sanitized, not as censorship, but as culture. There was no scandal, no whistleblower, no dramatic resignation, just consensus, polite nods, PowerPoints with upward curves. And beneath it all, slow leak and strategic integrity, undetected, because no one was listening for hissing. This is how elite organizations die, not with a crash, but with a sigh. Psychologists call it omission bias, a human tendency to fear action more than inaction. A manager would rather approve a safe compromise than risk conflict by challenging a flawed plan. Over time, silence becomes the default language of power, and the brain hates silence strategically. Neuroscience reveals that the brain constantly runs predictive coding. It scans environments for anomalies to update its model of reality. When dissent disappears, the system does not register purposes. It registers missing data, fills the void with false confidence. Porsche's internal reviews from 2019-2022 show a chilling pattern. Risk assessments grew shorter, challenge questions vanished from meeting agendas, and strategic alignment scores hit record highs, just as profit margins began their silent slide. Contrast this with Amazon's disagree and commit principle, or Bridgewater's radical transparency, where friction is not tolerated. It is engineered. Because high performers know, if no one is arguing, you are not thinking, you are just rehearsing. You have felt this yourself, that meeting where everyone agrees too fast, where the smartest person in the room stays quiet. Not out of ignorance, but exhaustion. That is not harmony, that is decay with good manners. True psychological safety is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of courageous clarity. Porsche did not collapse because it made wrong moves. It collapsed because it stopped making real moves at all. And the most terrifying part, no one noticed until the numbers screamed what the silence had hidden. They did not need a new car, they needed a new mind. When the world shifts, elites do not react faster, see deeper. Picture a chess grandmaster in a storm. While amateurs scramble to move pieces, the master studies the board as grain, the hidden geometry beneath the chaos. That is the elite response. Not action, but compression. Fewer voices. Sharper filters. One unwavering identity. Porsche could have done this. Instead of racing to electrify every model, it could have done what Rolex did during the quartz crisis. Go silent, protect the core, and let scarcity speak louder than specs. In 1970, when cheap digital watches flooded the market, Rolex did not pivot. It doubled down on mechanical craftsmanship. Knowing true believers would wait, profit dipped, legacy soared, or take LVMH during the 2008 crash. While competitors slashed prices, Bernard Arnault froze advertising, tightened distribution, and whispered exclusivity even harder. Result? Market share increased amid collapse. Because elite operators understand, timing is asymmetric leverage. You do not enter the future when it arrives. Position yourself so that when it does, you are the only one standing on solid ground. Here is the playbook Porsche ignored. Compress decision layers, cut committees, empower one strategic owner with skin in the game. Reaffirm identity ruthlessly. Not what can we sell, but who are we forbidden to become? Delay visible action. Let competitors burn capital proving demand. Then strike with precision once behavior shifts. Neuroscience confirms it. The prefrontal cortex performs best under constraint, not abundance. Too many options fracture attention. Too many stakeholders dilute judgment. The top 0.1% do not seek more data. Seek better filters. And here is what you can steal from this. In your business, your career, your decisions, do not ask, "What should I do next?" Ask, "What must I stop pretending to believe?" Because recovery never starts with a product. It starts with a purge of noise, of false consensus, of the quiet lie that growth justifies drift. Porsche's tragedy was not losing money. It was forgetting that real power is not measured in units sold, but in convictions held. Collapse never announces itself. It waits in the space between what you say you stand for and what you quietly compromise. Porsche did not fall because the market turned. It fell because its choices did. It traded scarcity for scale, consensus for clarity, motion for meaning. And in that slow surrender, disguised as strategy, Dior lost the one thing money cannot rebuild: elite perception. This is not just about cars, it is about you. Every time you dilute your standards to please more people, every time you confuse activity with progress, every time you stay silent to keep the peace, you are not being pragmatic. You are rehearsing your own quiet collapse. The top 0.1% know this. Power is not taken, it is preserved through ruthless alignment, strategic silence, and the courage to be misunderstood by the many. So you remain trusted by the few. But here is what comes next. Because understanding failure is only half the edge. The real shift, one that builds lasting wealth, happens when you stop optimizing for approval and start designing for consequence. In the next video, we dissect the exact mental model that transformed Jeff Bezos from a bookseller into an architect of empire. I became wealthy when I understood this, not a tactic, not a hack, a fundamental rewiring of how time, risk, and identity interact at the highest level. If you recognized yourself in this autopsy, Eiffel felt that quiet sting of compromise you have justified as realism. You belong here. This is not content, it's calibration. For those who refuse to confuse noise with signal and silence with surrender,